The decisions that you've made today, the reprieve that you're offering a number of Canadians, including many rural ones, is not going to impact in any way the overall objectives that you've set out very specifically to reduce emissions.
I think it will have a huge effect in 3 years' time when we have a critical mass of people in Atlantic Canada who have switched from home heating oil, which is far more polluting than heat pumps, and will save people a lot more money. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. The point is not, at the end of the day, scoring political points because you're consistent on this or whatever. The point has always been and should always be, we need to get people to start lowering emissions, even in the residential and domestic use, because all of that adds up to a lot. And if we can do that by making it affordable for people and getting rid of the upfront cost, we're off to the races.
The decisions that you've made today.
Let me just preface this. That's not Doogie Howser. That's not Neil Patrick Harris. His name is Seamus O'Hagan. Hold on, what's his name again? Seamus O'Regan. He's a Canadian politician. He might very well be Neil Patrick Harris's brother from another mother, sister from another mister, the joke I just made in our locals community. That's a Canadian politician, a member of Justin Trudeau's Liberal government, explaining how they are pausing their carbon tax. We'll get to an article summarizing it in the Maritimes because cost of living in Canada, as elsewhere, is getting to be so high that they can't continue to impose these policies that increase the cost of living. He posted this thinking it makes him look good. I just want to highlight one sentence that if you're astute, or if you follow me on Twitter or in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community, you know that I've already highlighted.
The reprieve that you're offering a number of Canadians, including many rural ones, is not going to impact in any way the overall objectives that you've set out very specifically to reduce
the carbon
emissions.
tax. You know what the funny thing is? The carbon tax is not going to do anything overall to reduce emissions. You know why? Because even if you buy into the emissions argument that emissions are the be-all and end-all of climate change, Canada as a whole emits 1.25% of global emissions. So you could shut off Canada entirely, not just carbon tax here and there in the Maritimes that cripples the cost of living in Canada, and it would do nothing. But hold on. They're offering a reprieve because the cost of their other policies of printing cash, massive immigration, that has its problems as well. They're offering a reprieve. Let's hear how the politician justifies his volte-face, comme on dit en français.
I think it will have a huge effect in 3 years' time when we have a critical mass of people in Atlantic Canada who
Doogie Howser, man, I'll tell you what.
Far more polluting than heat pumps, and will save people a lot more money. And this gives us the opportunity to do that. The point is not, at the end of the day, scoring political points because you're consistent on this or whatever.
The point at the end of the day is not to score political points because you're consistent. He posted that thinking that makes him look good and not like a raging hypocrite. Oh, look, the point here is not consistency. The point here is not logic, and it's not following through on our promises because the world is literally going to end. Every now and again, it's good to be inconsistent. It's good to be a hypocrite. It's good to come back on your policies after all the doom and gloom. It's outrageously hilarious that he thought that makes him look good as opposed to looking like an absolute partisan hack buffoon. Yes, I'm using lots of mean words, but I'm backing them up with hard facts, people. This is it. So is this it? Is this the right article? Get that. Saskatchewan vows to stop collecting Canada's carbon tax on heating. I think this is the right article. The leader of the Canadian province Saskatchewan vowed to stop collecting carbon taxes on homes heated with natural gas from 2024 if Ottawa does not expand an exemption announced last week for the Atlantic provinces. There's a sentiment in Canada that is supporting the Wexit, which is the Western Brexit of Canada, the Western Canada breaking away from Canada, from the country that is Canada, because a lot of people feel that Trudeau and his quasi-liberal government, they're actually fascist tyrants, we'll call them liberals just for the sake of it, have had an all-out war on the Maritimes, on the Western provinces, the gas industry, and they take all of the wealth from the Western provinces, siphon it over to Quebec, Ontario, and the Maritimes, and the West is pissed. And now Justin Trudeau, after crippling the West through all of his policies on no more gas and pipelines in Canada, we're going to, beg on our hands and knees for Saudi Arabian oil and Venezuelan oil. Yeah. After he's done doing all of that, he's giving an exemption to the Maritimes that apparently he has not extended to the Western provinces. Thursday, and I'll highlight this next paragraph as we go forward, and then I'm going to make sure that we're live everywhere that we should be. On Thursday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he would pause the carbon levy. Oh, the carbon levy. It's like the episode of The Simpsons. We got to find a word that doesn't sound like tax. How about colossal cash grab? No, you see, Milhouse, that's just as bad. It's a levy, people. It's a levy. It's not a tax. It's a levy. Let's just hear what this goes. On heating oil for Atlantic Canada to offset the high price of the fuel that is mainly used in the maritime provinces and help them counter cost of living expenses. I cannot accept the federal government giving an affordability break to people in one part of Canada, but not here, said the Prime Minister Mo. So that's the insanity coming out of Canada. Policies that drive up the cost of living. What just happened here? Let's close this down. Drive up the cost of living. And despite all the promises, the doom and gloom, we will die. The earth will end. How dare you steal the lives, the futures of children across Canada? No. To get some political points, because the policy is jacking up the cost of living. People out in the Maritimes, I mean, they're not rich provinces out in the Maritimes. I think they're among the most, I don't want to use the word impoverished, the least financially well-off provinces in Canada. So to offset that and the cost of their policies, they're going to give a little benefit here to the Atlantic provinces, but not to those rich, bad Western provinces. And then you got Seamus O'Regan coming on Twitter, posting that on Twitter. The point is not consistency for policies, okay? The point is that we need to be able to do whatever we want, regardless of our policies, regardless of consistency, inconsistency, hypocrisy. And when we do it, we're virtuous for having done it. It's the liberal fascist way. Okay. Deep breaths. We'll start off with something lighthearted. There will be no geopolitics discussed today. Today we're going to be discussing, it's not the fall of America, because if I believed it were the fall of America, I would not have made a decision to temporarily, short-term, long-term, who knows, relocate to Florida. What we are witnessing in real time is the absolute exposure, the unclothing, if you will, of the corruption of the judicial system, the prosecutorial system, and the political system in the United States, with the Trump persecution on all fronts, on multiple states. It's so much you can't even count anymore. I posted a tweet earlier today, one of the consistent trolls in my Twitter feeds didn't even know which, confusing the persecutions. Doesn't even know which one we're on yet. We're going to talk about the trial in Colorado to have Trump removed from the ballot for inciting the insurrection, to quote Chuck Schumer. We're going to talk about the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, persecution of Trump, and apparently calling his 3 kids as witnesses in the coming days. There was another Trump one that we're going to talk about. Oh, the D.C. case. The judge being re-gagged by Judge Chutkan, who gagged him, temporarily reprieved her own gag so that she could hear the grounds of appeal of Trump. And then after having heard the grounds of appeal, said, no, you know what? I was right when I gagged him in the first place. I'm going to re-gag him pending the aggregate appeal, which this will go up to the appellate process through. So that's what's on the menu for today. Then we have some fun stuff. We're going to go, I might live stream the Colorado trial because it's being live streamed. For anybody who was watching Joe Neerman, good logic out of New York, and I think his Twitter handle is now called The Following Program. The audio sucked. The audio for yesterday's hearing, it didn't just suck, it was useless. So live streaming that would be useless, frustrating, and counterproductive. Short of just sitting in front of a camera all day you could barely hear the answers. You could only hear the questions, which gave you a decent gauge as to, what the hell was going on. So we'll see if the audio's better today. Maybe I'll stream it after we talk about what we got to talk about today. But maybe not. But I clipped some highlights yesterday because I watched it so that you don't have to. Much like the January 6th Kangaroo Court Committee hearings. I watched it so that you didn't have to. And yesterday I watched it so you don't have to. And my one-sentence summary before we get into the subjects of the day, we're going to start with a lighthearted one. This is nothing but a rehashing. It's like the iteration 2.0, the crappy sequel to the crappy original of the Kangaroo Court January 6th committee. And it's starring the same characters. Forget what the name of the Capitol Police officer. He's testifying again. Eric Swalwell was one of the witnesses yesterday. Okay, let me just make sure that we're live everywhere we're supposed to be. Okay, we're live on the Rumbles. We are live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And we're live on YouTube. And what we're going to do is we're going to end on YouTube, I don't know, in a few minutes after we do a couple of subjects, go over to Rumble. And then depending on whether or not I cover the trial live, we will either continue that or I'll end and we'll have our after party at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I'm going to flag this, I'm going to star this comment and come back to it later because I've got some thoughts on it. All right, we're going to start with a light-hearted, funny. What was the moment where it was during a presidential campaign? Someone had a moment and they said that was the end of the campaign. I have not seen the entire interview, but DeSantis was on Patrick Bet-David, and there's a video going around now going viral. I'm sure some people are going to say this is the moment that's going to end DeSantis' run for presidency. I will not say that because I think it all ended a long time ago, and it has nothing to do with DeSantis in particular. Nobody's got a chance in that field against Trump. And one of my lingering thoughts is that anybody in that field who doesn't vehemently object to what's being done to Trump is implicitly, tacitly, or deliberately benefiting from the persecution for their own political goals and aspirations, which is problematic. DeSantis, I'm trying to find out how tall the dude is. I will never judge anybody for being tall or short, for that matter. I always say that I'm 5'5" and a half because 5'6" is a respectable height. And if people find out that I lie to get to what I think is a respectable height, that would be mortifying. When I wear shoes, I'm obviously over 5'6". I just got a pair of Asics Kayanos yesterday. With those things, man, I'm 5'6" and a half. I'm living large. But people are accusing DeSantis of lying about his height as if it matters. I had an exchange with Ian Miles Chong on Twitter today. Jenna Ellis. There's an interesting thing. When people have humorous, lighthearted, clearly less than serious positions or tweets or comments to make about some people, those who get offended by it or those who are upset by it politically or whatever, always run off with the same, there's more important things to talk about than DeSantis' height. Like, first of all, yeah, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and nobody's taking this seriously except for the people who seem to be offended by it, which some are suggesting DeSantis is. He goes on Patrick Bet-David, and I'll show you the clip. It's hilarious. And like people are breaking this down on the internet, showing diagrams of like what must be going on in DeSantis' boots. It's the DeSantis BootGate. It's a BootGate. Hey, check this out. Here we go.
I'm sure your marketing team points out how they're trying to troll you in the marketplace. Okay, I'm sure they're doing that. Can you bring this one clip? I know you were on, what do you call it? On, what was it? Bill Maher, and Bill Maher talked about the boots. I've seen you walk with these boots. Go ahead and play this clip.
Das
This
Boots.
on TikTok went viral. It doesn't have 1 million views. It doesn't have, 10 million views. This thing's got 1.2 million likes. And
Now, so I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with TikTok. If it's got 1.2 million likes, I presume that's like, it means it's got exponentially more views. Unless we can actually see how many views it's got there. We can't. Whatever. I don't care. Okay.
some people are wondering.
What are they? I don't even. I haven't seen that.
They've not shown this to you. Okay,
No.
what they're trying to say with this is that in your boots you have heels.
No.
Can you imagine? Dude, I don't think back in the day they put this much effort into determining the JFK assassination. I mean, this is some serious, this is like the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs. There's a word for it that I don't like using about the people on the internet who are so intelligent, focusing on minute details. There's a term for it, which I don't use. They're at work right now in graphing this out, and it's hilarious.
Oh, no.
That's what they're trying to say.
Those are just standard off the rack Lucchese.
How tall are you? How tall are you, Governor? How tall?
5'11".
5'11". Okay.
There's some body language going on there. 5'11".
Okay.
I don't know Ron DeSantis at all. I've never met him in person. I wonder if he doesn't have that good of a sense, not good in an insulting sense, if he doesn't have a developed sense of humor for whatever the reason. And so, though people who don't have a sense of humor, not malicious people, but just people who are not endowed with a natural sense of humor, might have a harder time laughing at themselves. I have a natural well-endowed sense of humor. I have no problem laughing at myself. In fact, I probably laugh at myself more than other people on the internet laugh at me. But it doesn't look like DeSantis is getting the humor of the situation to make the requisite lightness of it. That would be so much more beneficial than taking it too seriously.
Why don't you wear tennis shoes and dress shoes?
I do wear tennis shoes when I work out. Yeah, 100%.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. I got a gift for you. I'd love for you to wear, okay, I shop at Ferragamo. Okay.
Oh, he shops at Ferragamo. Humble flex, PBD. You know where I shop? I shop at Dick's Sporting Goods. And okay, I'll get into that afterwards.
Yeah. I don't accept gifts. I can't accept it.
Oh God, he just needs to have the humor. First of all, he said Ferragamo. I thought he said Bruno Mali at first, so there was a joke that I had that was not applicable anymore. But
I'm sorry.
So he can't accept the gift, which is ethical, by the way. So in all the patent lack of innate humor, he's got a good. I mean, obviously he's got to be ethical because it's broadcast, and he can't accept gifts without getting screwed. So he called them Lucchese boots, which I looked up. It seems like the entry-level Lucchese boots start at $500. American. Which I found flabbergastingly expensive. But I think I'm an old, crotchety, out-of-date, like I used to be with it, and now what's with it is not it, and I'm no longer with it. Apparently, like, that's not egregious or outrageous. I remember being a kid. I mean, you know, inflation is what it was, but like, I had to beg my parents for like shoes that cost $100. I guess that was maybe a lot back then. In fact, not maybe. It was a lot back then, but it doesn't seem like the shoes have gone up that much because in terms of inflation. But either way, $500 for a pair of boots, and that's just the starting. I saw something like 1,000, 2,000, and that's nuts. I think it's nuts. But Lucchese, how the company says it, Lucchese. Everything about this should have been humorous. It should be joking. It should be a lighthearted reprieve from the miseries of the world. So everyone taking it more seriously than they should. Lighten up. But I like the fact that DeSantis reflexively says, I cannot accept gifts because if I accept gifts, they will indict me, they will impeach me, they will lock me up, and I won't be able to run for president anymore. Oh, yeah, see, the only shoes I got as a kid were hand-me-downs. You see, it's the benefit of being the youngest of five. Like, hand-me-downs don't survive 5 kids, so I was able to, you know, that, and I have bigger feet than my oldest brother, so there's that. That's the lighthearted stuff of the day. Lucchese boots, I thought were expensive. They call it BootGate because the question is, how tall is DeSantis? He said 5'11". Jack Posobiec said, I smell exaggeration. Nobody if you're 5'11", you round it up to 6 feet, is his logic. I say that's false because I'm 5'5" and a half and I don't round it up to 5'6", even though my license says 1.65 meters. So that's it. Let's see here. At Viva Frei, exactly. PBD were all heavy with Katie Hopkins, who is a comedian, so she shredded them. And then we got watching from Alberta, Canada. Well, you, Beulah. You must be knowing exactly what's going on with Canadian politics and how Trudeau has waged war against the West, according to many. Okay, that's the lighthearted stuff of the day. We're going to do one Trump persecution over here. Which one do we do, people? Which one do we think that we want to do here? I'm going to go to all my footmarks. I think we need to save the Trump trial, the Colorado trial, for Rumble because it's going to last longer than 15 minutes and I don't want to break it up. I think we'll do. There's not much to report in the New York Letitia James persecution. I mean, let's just actually break this all down. Just like, we got to itemize these persecutions because they have gotten too many to count. Okay, number one, you've got the state court hush money charges against Trump. Soros-funded Alvin Bragg coming out of New York. Okay, that's one. You've got your tax fraud from Soros-funded Attorney General. I've been told, and that there's indirect funding from Soros entities, yada, yada. We'll give the benefit of the doubt and not throw in the Soros funding there. You got Soros-funded Alvin Bragg, New York. That's the hush money payment. Okay, that one's ongoing. Number two, out of New York State, Letitia James fraud case against Trump in front of Judge Engoron, the man who says, I've got tools to do exactly whatever I want and create the results I want in law. That's 2. You've got the Florida classified documents case that is currently pending. For whatever the reason, brought out of D.C., moved to Florida. Venue shopping. Doesn't matter. That's 3. 4, you've got the D.C. case in front of Judge Chutkan. That is the January 6th insurrection case, if I'm not getting them confused myself now. The January 6th incitement of the mob case. That is the one in which there's a gag order, as there is in the Engoron case. What are we up to? Okay, 2 out of New York, Florida, D.C. Then we've got the Georgia case. That is Fannie Willis. We're not talking about that one right now. That's the one in which there have been a number of defendants pleading. That's number 5. Number 6 now is the new one that we're going to start talking about a lot, because that's the trial that's going on this week, is the Colorado lawsuit brought by an activist organization. By voters. 4 of them are Republican, to keep Trump off the ballot because of insurrection, which there has been no adjudication of, finding of anywhere. In fact, to the contrary, there was an acquittal on the second impeachment, which had to do with inciting the insurrection. So we're going to start with New York. Letitia James, abusing of the wholesale weaponization of the legal process. Quiet. I don't want to hear you yet. Abusing of the wholesale weaponization of the judicial process, the prosecutorial process. You will recall Judge Engoron. I'm not going to play the clip again. Judge Arthur Engoron, who gave a speech 8-9 years ago, talking about all the tools that he has. It's a very controversial thing. I'm going to say it, even though I'm on camera. Juries get it wrong a lot. And I've got my tools to bypass jury verdict. It's called judgment notwithstanding a verdict. So if the jury comes down with a verdict that I don't like, I've got tools. It's controversial to say. I've done it twice. One time I was overturned, one time I wasn't. So I'm batting 50-50. Not bad on a controversial method of bypassing the judicial process. And I say that with the full degree of insight, because in the Michael Flynn, his partner's case, who I can't remember his name, I won't remember it. I remember it's Armenian. The judge in that case used the judgment notwithstanding a verdict to overturn the jury finding of FARA violations. Anybody in the chat can remember what Flynn's business partner's name was? I want to be stubborn and I want to get it. Berkosian. What was his name? Michael Flynn's business partner, who got convicted of FARA violations, and then the judge overturned the jury verdict. A, B. It starts with a C. Have I asked a question that the aggregate wisdoms of the interwebs are unable to find? Let me go to locals and see if they've got it. His name was... That's not his name. Well, I'll get his name in a second when the chat gets it. So there are times when a judge does it, and I will say, oh, look at that. The verdict was so ridiculous that the judge had to exercise that power. It's case dependent. No basic rule to it. Janov, in a civil trial to find liability? I don't think so. No, sorry, I'll bring that up. Not saying it applies in this particular case. This was just the judge 8 years ago talking about all the tools he has at his disposal, to get around. His name was not Robert Paulson. So this is in this particular case out of New York, the judge, am I making the law or am I following the law? I don't know. It's hard for me to get past my own bias, and I have tools, and I'm almost quoting him verbatim. Rafikian, thank you very much. Bian Rafikian, excellent. That was Flynn's business partner was convicted of FARA violations by a jury, as if they even knew what it was. The judge he did a judgment notwithstanding a verdict, said there's no way anybody comes to. I know it was a Fight Club joke. The judge said no reasonable, rational verdict. A jury comes to this finding based on this fact, overturned it. It was one of the first beefs I had with Legal, a substantive beef, where he said, in one of his videos, referred to the fact that Michael Flynn's business partner was found guilty by jury. Didn't mention the fact that the judge overturned that verdict. So, substantive omission, deliberate or neglect, who knows, outcome is the same. Okay, back to New York, Letitia James. Engoron has used the tools at his disposal to come to a to come to a finding of fraud on the Mar-a-Lago assessment. No jury in this case. Summary motion comes to a summary judgment, fraud. Moving on. There was no summary judgment means there was no triable issue of fact that required any further adjudication. Summary motion, yeah, it's a matter of fact that he overvalued fraudulently the Mar-a-Lago property. Okay, fine. Tool number one that Judge Engoron has used to get to the outcome of his liking, of his bias, foregone conclusion liking. He gags Trump. There's no jury in Judge Engoron's New York Letitia James fraud case. There's no jury. Gags Trump, orders him not to, what did he say, make disparaging remarks, attack members of his staff. Can't highlight the fact that Judge Engoron, it might have not included Engoron himself, can't highlight the fact that his top clerk is a partisan political hack who's chummy with Chuck Schumer, posting pictures all over the internet. Chuck Schumer, the guy who says, Trump had better be careful because the FBI's got 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you if they don't like what you're doing. You know, it's all irrelevant. It's nothing that the public would be interested in highlighting. So he says, here's your verdict. You're finding a fraud on summary judgment. And I'm also going to gag you. You can't point out the political bias of the members of my staff. Trump allegedly violates that order once. Bam, $5,000 fine. Judge allegedly violates that order a second time by truthing out on Truth Social the person sitting, the clearly biased person sitting next to the judge. Judge Engoron takes that to mean his top clerk, methinks thou dost protesteth too much, when Trump says, I was only talking about Michael Cohen, who was on the stand sitting next to you, Judge, totally biased, discredited himself in testimony. The judge says, this is horrible. You violated my gag order a second time when making statements in the hallway. Come before me and tell me what you meant when you referred to the biased person sitting next to me. I think you meant my politically biased chief clerk. Trump says, no, I meant Michael Cohen. Judge says, I don't believe you, $10,000. It's like when Bart Simpson is mouthing off to Principal Skinner and he's like, 2 days detention. Oh, well, why stop there? 1 week detention. Oh, maybe I should just shut my big mouth. Well, Trump's not going to shut his mouth, Engoron. $10,000 fine, and the judge says, these are going to be increasing sanctions in severity. Okay, so he's been under a gag order. He can't talk about certain things. The judge says, it's not the end of the world. You can talk about some stuff. You just can't talk about the corruption of my potential bias of my staff. All the while, what is sweet Letitia James doing in all of this? She's taking to Twitter daily to post the most Orwellian, Kafkaesque, Vonnegutian idiocracy summaries, in her view, of what's going on in court during the day. Listen to this one. Which one? This one's yesterday, right? Again and again, Donald Trump inflated the value of his properties to increase his net worth. But here's the thing. When you engage in fraud, eventually you're going to face consequences. Not when you allegedly engage in fraud. When you engage in fraud. I know there's all sorts of immunity issues, but she's not making an allegation. She's accusing someone of a crime while they're prosecuting, while they're in court, on a civil matter, no less. Well, is it civil or is it not? Oh, it's not. It's commercial. Okay, so scratch that, whatever I just said there. When you engage in fraud, not when you allegedly. And there's people going to be out there who are going to say, well, her job as Attorney General is to prosecute. No. The job of an Attorney General is not to prosecute and it's not to get conviction. It's to pursue justice. But in this case, justice is about as blind as Letitia James's politics. Listen to this.
Today we began the 5th week of our trial against Donald Trump,
5th week.
the Trump Organization, and other defendants. We heard testimony from 3 witnesses, including a former Trump Organization executive. That executive was involved in fraudulently inflating the value of Donald
allegedly.
Trump's assets
Involved
to
in.
increase his net worth. On Christmas Eve in 2020, he received a voicemail from defendant and former Trump Organization controller Jeffrey McConney. Mr. McConney asked him to come up with reasons to justify a higher value for their Nike Town property.
God forbid.
Because their accountant at Mazars needed more information. Just 3 days later, documents show that the witness did as he was told and changed the value of Nike Town.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is such a flagrant misrepresentation, even based on her own words from a few seconds ago. He didn't say go and misrepresent. Even what she just said. Said what did she say? We need find some more.
Needed more information.
Here, hold on a second.
For their Nike Town.
Come up with reasons to justify a higher value
for their Nike Town property, because their accountant at Mazars needed more information. Just 3 days later, documents show that the witness did as he was told
and changed
the value of.
Oh,
Nike
I'm sorry.
Town
That's not even what you
based
said.
on
He
cash
said.
Flow analysis he created.
God. Oh boy. Okay, doesn't matter.
This former executive was also involved in conversations about the value of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, it's worth $18 million.
Since 1995, Mar-a-Lago was legally registered as a social club rather than a private residence for tax and ownership purposes. This executive testified that he knew that it was a club and that Trump paid lower taxes on it as a club rather than as a private residence. He also testified that he knew the property was worth much less than it would have been if it were Donald Trump's private home.
Let's not even get into it. Could be a raised, empty lot and be worth hundreds of millions. Oh, and by the way, Dinesh D'Souza's premiere of Police State is at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow, and I'll be attending that. I'll tell you if it looks like an $18 million. Oh, sorry, $18 to $27 million property. Oh, and then by the way, Judge Engoron never said it was worth that. He just came to the conclusion of finding a fraud as a matter of fact because he went with the Broward County City Appraiser's estimate of the property. The county appraisal, not market value. 18 million to 20. Okay, put it on the market and have it be a public bidding. See what it goes for.
However, when it came time to prepare the statements of financial condition, the Trumps continued to value Mar-a-Lago as a private residence. In 2021, Mar-a-Lago was assessed at approximately $28 million.
By a county appraiser.
$612 million.
There's an empty lot that's selling for 100.
And again.
And again.
Donald Trump tried to double dip. But here's the thing with the law.
Oh, here's the thing with the law. Tell me.
You can't have it both ways.
Oh. This is the propaganda that Letitia James is putting out daily while Trump is gagged. She accuses him of crimes. No alleged, no qualification. While the trial is ongoing, I dare say misrepresents the testimony that's being adduced in court in real time while Trump is being gagged and fined at exponentially higher levels per alleged infraction while this trial goes on. Make it make sense. There's no way to make it make sense. And now the latest development in that, because the trial is a load of poo-poo. Danica Patrick, what are you doing here? Get out of here. This is Trump. 3 of his kids will testify in New York fraud trial in early November. From what I understand, Ivanka might be making a motion to quash. As far as my understanding goes, they can be subpoenaed and to testify, and I think they can make a motion to quash the subpoena. We'll see if this article talks about it. And either way, because I know the limits of my own knowledge, I'm going to discuss this with Barnes on Sunday and ask the questions that I'm still hitherto uncertain of. After more than 4 weeks of testimony in former Donald Trump's New York civil fraud trial. Good, so it was civil. Okay, good. He and 3 of his adult kids, what a bizarre way to say it. He and 3 of his adult kids will soon be called to court to testify. Letitia James said on Friday. Yeah, she's long indicated. Letitia, remember, she campaigned off going after Trump. Remember that. I mean, I posted some of the amazing highlights from prior interviews and speeches that she gave. 2018, campaigned off of persecuting an individual, Trump. James' team has long indicated Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Ivanka Trump would be questioned on the stand on Friday. An attorney for James said it will rest its case after they testify. James' office expects to call Donald Trump Jr. to the stand Wednesday, November 1. Eric Trump, November 2. Ivanka Trump, November 8. Why? It skips a date. Okay, but her testimony was pushed back. The court said yada, yada. Okay, fine. Assuming the revised schedule holds, Donald Trump will be called to testify under oath on Monday, November 6th. You think they're not going to try to go after some fabricated, fraudulent, horse crap perjury charges? Like what they did with Michael Flynn when he was testifying. Was it Flynn? No, I'm getting mixed up between all of the fabricated perjury, lying. That was lying to investigators. You think they're not going to go after anything he says? Let me see here. A senior campaign advisor said it's unlikely Trump will travel to New York for his children's testimony since he is going to be in Texas for much of the week. The advisor said Trump is likely to go to New York for his own testimony, but hasn't finalized his plans yet. Trump and their account, they've already been found liable. It's amazing, eh? They've Alex Jones, Donald Trump. The Trumps and their company have already been found liable for fraud in the case, but the trial has proceeded on allegations related to falsification of business records, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. The state is seeking at least $250 million in what it calls ill-gotten gains. And harsh penalties that would severely restrict, as it is now, they've frozen his business licenses in New York, threatened to dispose of his assets. They're accused of misrepresenting the Trump values properties in order to obtain favorable loans and insurance. The poor itty bitty banks didn't get their increased rates of interest, but they got paid back in full and made like $40 million, I think was the last number I heard. And the insurance companies, insurance. I mean, we don't get to see the trial in real time. If you overvalue the value of your properties, your insurance goes up as typically. If you're insuring, I don't know what type of insurance it is, but typically if you're insuring a property that you say is worth $400 million, the insurance won't be as cheap as it would be if it were only $18 million. But who knows what type of insurance, whatever. Okay. Defendants have all denied the allegations, yada, yada, yada. Trump has repeatedly stood just outside the courtroom doors, lashing out at James and the judge, accusing them of being unfair and biased against him. That's not an accusation. It is a matter of demonstrable fact. When you have campaign interviews, campaign speeches of Letitia James saying, I'm going to prosecute Donald Trump if elected, when you have a judge admitting that he's got the tools to carry to fruition his internal biases, it's not, what did the word they said? An accusation. It's a demonstrable, verifiable fact, period. That anger has occasionally earned the ire, of Justice Arthur Engoron, who has twice fined Trump for violating a limited gag order. Do you see the framing here? It's earned the ire, so it was justified. The limited gag order, I guess it's limited if he can say anything. If he's allowed to say anything, I'm hungry, it's a limited gag order. Wednesday, Engoron even put Trump on the stand to question him about his comment that Engoron ultimately concluded was about the clerk. Ivanka was initially named in the lawsuit when it was filed in 2022, but this summer she successfully moved the appellate court to dismiss the allegations against her. The court found the allegations related to her involvement in loans of the Trump organization were outside the statute of limitations. Still, Letitia James, pursuer of justice, subpoenaed her to appear in the case. Ivana contested the subpoena, but Engoron ruled against her on Friday. Oh, didn't hear that. Quelle surprise, as we say en français, tabarnouche. Oh, it's outrageous. Okay, we've done enough on the Rumbles. Let me go get the link. The judge who's got all the tools in his world, he refused to quash the subpoena. Quash means not to squash, but it's basically to cancel the subpoena that Ivanka challenged. What a surprise. I'm surprised he didn't find her guilty by summary judgment as well. All right, everybody, mosey your tuchuses over on to the Rumbles. We're at 557 on YouTube. Let's see that number go down radically before we go out there. And on the Rumbles, well, first I'm going to go check to see if this trial is being broadcast live today, if the audio levels are better. And then we're going to talk about the big one, that trial. And then the other one, what was the other one? Oh, the Re-Gagged, Trump Re-Gagged. Okay, I wanted to refresh, and I just want to see the number go from 556 down. What do joy... can I read this? Oh. Okay, I'm not reading that. 540. All right, good. We're done. I just noticed that there's some trends in terms of who the Soros, the Soros entity seeks to finance and get elected. There seem to be some similarities. Okay, we are going to end on YouTube in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on over to Rumble. The link is in the pinned comment. If